In this video, I am going to break down one of the most difficult questions in the Silver Quality Award application. And of course, I'm talking about the question, how do you evaluate and improve the approaches you use in that certain item, meaning in 1.1, 1.2, 2.1, and on and on. It is the most challenging question for most people, and I'm not speaking hyperbolically. That really, is that the word hyperbolic? Hyperbole? I'm not speaking whatever the word is. I'm not exaggerating. It is a really bear of a question. And to make it even worse, it appears 12 times in the application. This is my Silver Quality Award application. Just bringing up, I have section 5 open here. And so this is the question that we're talking about right here. 5.1e, and this question exists in every section. Every section asks this learning question. We're going to stick with section 5 for a minute here. There's so many things to consider, and in this video what I want to do is I want to try to give you a little bit of a roadmap, a blueprint, so how that you can effectively answer the question, making sure that you're understanding the criteria. If this is the first time you see me, my name is Ralph Peterson, and I am a Quality Award consultant helping organizations apply for and kind of understand and figure out what exactly the criteria is saying. And this is one of the biggest questions I get from so many people. So let's dive into it. First and foremost, let me break it down right here before I go to my little workbook that I created. First, anytime you see the word how, we're asking you for the process, and that is super important, especially for this question. And then the second thing I want to point out is the word you. Who are they talking about? Well, of course, the person filling out the application is going to go like, they're talking about me. And they are, generally speaking. But what they're really asking is about your senior leadership team. So what is the process your senior leadership team uses to evaluate and improve? This little word "and," we've been around hearing me talk about this before, that is an indicator that there are two parts to this question. This is part number 1, evaluate, and this is part number 2, improve. So first and foremost, we're asking you, how do you evaluate? What is your process? What are your senior leaders' process to evaluate the approaches? Well, here's that big word. What the heck does the word approaches mean? And quite honestly, I think the best thing to do would be to cross that word out and just add the word process. Because that's really what we're asking you. What is your process to evaluate and improve the processes you have in place forget this whole to respond to item. Here's the question. It's all about workforce environment 5.1. So what is your process? What is your senior leader's process to evaluate and then improve, if there are any improvements to be made, to the processes that you have in place in response to the section 5.1 workforce environment. So let me just go, I have a little, this is how I break it down in my workbook. I created a workbook that has every question broken down to its finest points to help you try to make sure that you get everything out of it. Once again, how means the process. You means just senior leaders. And we're going to focus on evaluating first. Here's the improved part down here. I separated them because this is question number 1 and this is question number 2. So let's start at the beginning, question number 1. And again, I put the word process here. I would ignore the word approaches. So just simply, what process do your senior leaders use to evaluate the process you have in place for workforce environment? Now, let's talk about, as an example, let's say that you have evaluated your hiring process. And goodness knows, all of us have updated, changed, redone, added, or taken away steps in our hiring process over the last years, right? And so that's the other thing too. It's important to know that when we're filling out this application, we really are looking for the most recent data, which means 12 to 18 months. So like we changed the process 10 years ago. It's probably time to revamp the process. Have a look-see at it again if you haven't evaluated and improved a process. Something as valuable, as very important as the hiring process. Another thing that I want to point out here is it says, how do you? This how do you part right here, how do you part looks like it's talking about it's a present tense. Like, how do you do it right now? Well, if we go back to the actual application and we look at the notes, and by the way, if you're not looking at these notes, I strongly suggest, to give them some consideration. You'll find some absolute gold in these notes. They're really designed to help you clarify some things. So here's the note for 5.1e, and it's a pretty big note because, again, this is a pretty big question, and it's a challenging question to understand. Heck, it's a challenging question to explain, hence the long note. But this is what I want to point out here. Where is it? In your response, describe the methodology and resulting improvement. That's what I want to draw your attention to. The resulting improvement. What does that mean? Resulting improvement is, linguistically speaking in the English grammar, past tense. Means you already did it. So it's not how do you, let me clear all this up for a second so I can draw it again. It's not how do you, it's how did you. It's how did you. We're asking you give us an example of a process that you have evaluated, that you have improved. So that's very important. And you'll find that kind of a detailed note right here. And that's what I mean. That's why it's so helpful to really read these notes carefully, because don't miss something like that. A lot of times what people will do for this question is they'll go all the way back. If you remember, here, let me just skip back here. If you remember the last question in the org profile, I believe it's right here. Look at this. It's right here. It's already writing all over it. This is, what is your performance improvement system? How do you step by step, how do you systematically solve problems, evaluate and improve situations that are coming up? A lot of people will take the answer that they wrote for this question and they'll actually give it to us in these learning and improvement questions. Where am I? 5. Here we go. In these learning, evaluation, and improvement questions. And it's not completely wrong, but it's not completely right either, because what you end up doing by just giving us we follow the PDSA methodology. We have to come up with a plan, and then we do the plan, and then we study the plan. Right, but we want to see it in action, in response to workforce environment. So we want you to take one of these processes that you've talked about here. And by the way, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 process questions. 10 process questions in this one answer, right? In this one section. And so of these 10 process questions, have you evaluated and improved any of them? And the answer, again, is very likely yes. And if the answer is no, well, my friends, it's not too late. Go ahead and start evaluating and improve. Just go find something to evaluate and improve, because that is the requirement of the Silver Quality Award. And when we get to the gold level, I mean, we're going to evaluate and improve all of our processes. We're not going to leave any stone unturned. That's the whole point. This is setting you up. This question right here is setting you up for the biggest success in your senior care center. I guarantee it. If you follow this, I mean, I'm telling you, one of the best things you can do is become a learning environment. And of course, if you want to win silver and gold, well, you need to. There's a requirement. You have to be a learning environment. Okay, so this is what I would say. So it's not a present tense. It is a past tense, meaning you're going to tell us about a process that you have evaluated in the past. And again, past 1 year, 2 years maybe. I wouldn't go much further than that. So it got to be a real recent thing. Evaluated, and then what did you improve? And so from a writing point of view, and let me erase all this, just to put you in the headspace. And I hope this, and there's tons of, I was going to say millions, there's not millions of us, but there's a lot of consultants out there that do really good work on the quality awards. And so a simple Google search, you can find yourself a really good consultant. And if you can't find a good consultant, reach out to me. I'll help you find a consultant if I'm not the right fit for you. I'm not the right fit for everyone. And I know a lot of consultants, and I'd be more than happy to share your contact with them or their contact with you, either way. Okay, so this is how I would invite you to consider setting up how you're going to answer the question. This basically works for all questions, but especially for this question. So first, I would say senior leaders. Because who is writing this? Senior leaders. And we're answering now. Say, how do senior leaders? All right, I'm going to tell you. Senior leaders evaluate and here's the big key I wanted to talk about. I would not say approaches. I would write evaluated. I almost missed it. Evaluated, because it's past tense. We evaluated the process. The process. That's how I would start every single sentence for every one of these learning questions. Every one of these learning questions, even if this isn't how you write, at least write it this way so that you don't forget, you don't lose sight of what the question is asking. The question is asking you, how did your senior leaders evaluate, past tense, the process you use? I know it says approaches. It's like lawyers speak. Lawyers talk in these grand words and you go, why? And it's because they don't want you to know the real meaning or something. I don't know why they use these words. I don't know why they use the word approaches. I much rather use the simple word process, because that is exactly what we are looking for as an examiner. Trust me, we're looking for the process. And then what you're going to do from here. So, and notice that I'm using the question in my answer, which is, basic English. That's how we learn in school about use the question in your answer and make sure that you stay on track. So senior leaders evaluated the process, and you're going to, the process of hiring, or the process of recruiting, or the process of onboarding, or one of the processes in section 5.1. And next thing you're going to do is you're going to tell us a story. But here's another thing that is I am seeing over and over again, so I don't want you to miss this. They'll say, we evaluated the process of hiring. Let's say it's hiring. And then they'll go, now we do this. And they'll explain whatever it is they do. And now what has just happened, I'm going to change the color of my pen just so I can write over this. What just happened is you created a huge gap. There's a huge gap now. Let me get rid of all this. Okay. Now there's a huge gap between this and this. The gap is, I have no idea. Let me actually lasso this sucker. Oh, technology. The gap is that I have no idea what was wrong. So the best way to go about this when you're explaining this to somebody, it's in normal conversation, you might say, we used to do it that way. No, we used to do something. We used to hire people. Like, it used to be really clunky and it was really bad. But now this is how we do it. We've totally streamlined it. And when you're explaining it to somebody and the mission is to just explain the new process, that is great, right? Like, that's normal kind of everyday conversation. However, in this application, we want to see this evaluation piece. Don't skip that evaluation piece. So the first thing I want you to do is, after you identify the process, senior leaders evaluated the process of hiring new employees. Okay, perfect. Great way to start. We used to, or what we did before, what we did before, we used to do this, and there was a problem. And we realized that there was a problem in some way. We missed this, or we weren't getting that, or it wasn't working in some way. Tell us what the problem was, and then tell us how you improved it. So this is the evaluation process. We haven't even moved to the improve part yet. We haven't moved down here yet. So With that evaluation process, you're going to go, we used to do this. It was our steps to hiring people included these 5 things that we were doing, and we weren't getting anywhere. And so what we did was, now, what did you do? And by the way, this is also where maybe that P2C1 question comes in, that last question of the org profile, where it says, you remember when you talked about how you solve a problem? You might have said, after we ID a problem, maybe, this is how we do it, but you don't copy what I'm saying, you follow your own methodology. After we ID a problem, we do a root cause analysis. What is a root cause analysis? What is another way of saying a root cause analysis? It is a evaluation. It's an evaluation. Hey, how do you evaluate? Well, you know what? I'll tell you how we do. What we do is we do a root cause analysis. We look for what is happening or what isn't happening, what's working, what isn't working. And then after we come up with the 3, 4, 5 things that we think are causing the problem or not working, we brainstorm. We brainstorm some ideas, right? And then once we do that, we do follow the PDSA. So then we come up with a plan. Then we do the plan. Then we study the results of that plan and we make further decisions on that plan. And so as you can see, we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 step problem solving process. All we're asking you to do in the evaluate part is to tell us how, usually it's these 3 things, where we're doing the evaluation, and when it's a problem, it's a root cause. When it's a process, it might just be like, hey, I don't know if we have a problem with this process, but let's look at it anyway. And what would you do when you look at a process? You would still identify all the steps that you do in that process, put it up on a wall and go, okay, so it looks like to hire a new employee, we follow these 18 steps. Yeah, okay. What steps are taking the longest? What steps don't actually serve us well? What steps are getting in our way? Or what steps could be done sooner or before this or after that or wherever? And that evaluation will always lead to a brainstorming session. That brainstorming session is, what can we do better? And then you come up with a plan. And then this second half here is the improve part. This is the improve part because we're implementing the plan. We're studying the results and we're coming up. And so now at the end, we have for this improve part, it is a happy story. So you're literally telling us a story. Like senior leaders evaluated this process that we used to hire employees. See, what we used to do was this, and this. But honestly, we weren't getting an awful lot of applicants. And the applicants we were getting, they weren't very qualified. And so we had to go back to the drawing board. We went back, brought our IDT team together in our QAPI meeting, and we put together this whole thing. We made some improvements. We found software and different technologies and other people to help. And you know what? We streamlined it so much better. It's now a lot better. It works a lot better. And I can even prove it works a lot better because I used to only have 15 applications a month, and now we're getting more than 40 applications a month. I mean, it's crazy how well this is now working. One small little caveat to the story I just told is I said that we had 15 applications on average with our old way of recruiting or hiring, and now I guess I was really talking about recruiting, but now we have 40. That is going to be an indicator to the examiner that you must be tracking, because obviously you wouldn't have that data if you weren't tracking it. So make sure anything that you put in this section, if you're like, hey, we count it, know that the examiner is going to be looking for evidence. We're going to want to see a result on that. So that's it. I hope this is helpful, and pardon my little chicken scratch here, but I hope this makes it easier for you to answer all these learning and evaluation questions. If you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to reach out. I would love to be part of your journey, love to help you get the quality award, bronze, silver, and gold. See you later. Thank you for watching, and if you got value from this video, please like, subscribe, follow, and share with your friends and colleagues. I would very much appreciate it. And of course, if you are interested in applying for a bronze, silver, or gold quality award through the American Healthcare Association, I would absolutely love to help you win.